Another change, another announcement. Oh, and another one again. And another one. All these different announcements. And there you are as a middle manager, and you have to carry those messages to the team. That's exhausting, isn't it? I'm Dawn, and this is Have That Talk. Today, I want to talk about change fatigue and announcement fatigue, and what you can do about it. Change fatigue is when everything in the company seems to be changing everywhere, all at once, with the same high level of priority. It's disruptive to daily work, it's confusing for the team, and it doesn't do your blood pressure any good at all. What about announcement fatigue? This is the phenomenon when the change is announced with a big bang. Maybe a press release, but definitely a town hall meeting, an internal memo, and perhaps some follow-up workshops or a few pilots in specific areas of the business. In any case, the weather warning has been given and everybody hunkers down, waiting for the storm. And then, nothing. The project team may still be tinkering somewhere in the basement, but communications has ground to a halt, and nobody's talking about it anymore, certainly not in the boardroom. Somebody made a decision that this was no longer a priority, and everything died down. And for everyone else, onwards and upwards, business as usual. The problem with both these kinds of fatigue isn't that there's not enough communication happening. Managers are already drowning in slide decks and briefing meetings and memos from the comms team. But what they're not being prepared for are the other conversations that need to happen. The ones that are necessary but uncomfortable, maybe even politically risky. These are the ones that give managers a bit more of a sense of control over their situation. Let's start with the upward conversations. The first kind is the upward conversation with your own manager to inform them of where your team actually stands amongst all this chaos. Which priorities are shifting, which delays are going to happen, which deliverables aren't going to be met due to all this disruption. And also to negotiate some repositioning of some of those so-called priorities. Not to come in just with complaints, but to discuss the trade-offs. If we focus on C, then A and B might need to be delayed, or the scope will need to be changed. Come in with a negotiation position. The next upward conversation is with the project sponsor. Every transformation has a senior executive sponsor, somebody who kind of has the overarching political responsibility for the success of the initiative. They are the ones who are usually put in front of the company to speak about the project, to outline the vision, and to say what the benefits will be for the company and for every team. It's a high-profile role, but because it's positioned so high up, it's easy for that executive, after a few months, to move on to the next priority, to lose track of where things are with the program. They end up being distracted, less involved, and as such, they don't play their role to keep things under the same level of limelight as there was in the beginning. And without that light, many projects lose their energy and run out of steam. So speaking up and saying to that sponsor, hey, we've noticed that you're not present in the meetings anymore, and somehow your voice is missing. People are losing confidence. They're starting to think that maybe this project isn't as important anymore. If it still is important for you, we need you to be more actively engaged. And related to this conversation with a stakeholder is the upward conversation with other senior executives who might have been present at the big town hall and at the big launch, but are now actually not walking the talk. People are noticing that in their divisions, nothing is changing, while everybody else is scrambling and trying to make things work. That's not a good look. And then there are the sideways conversations. It's good to keep in touch with your peers, to understand how they're coping with the changes, to exchange notes on how their team is getting on. Are there more sick days? Have they lost anyone in their team? What kind of questions are they getting? It's really important to learn from one another, to understand that you're not in this alone, but that there are other people at your level struggling with the same challenges. Another sideways conversation is with a function that might be quietly blocking you. So maybe finance isn't releasing the budget funds as quickly as you need them. Or legal has been sitting on that contract for weeks and nobody's responding to your emails. Or IT, who's moved on to a different project and doesn't really listen to your requests anymore. This is frustrating, especially if you launch the project and it's your baby to carry through. Even if everything seems to be of high importance and high priority, there still is a hierarchy to corporate initiatives. So you've got to understand where you sit along that ladder. And don't forget the diagonal conversations. So these are the conversations that need to be had with the boss of your peer. They're usually escalation conversations. You're hitting a roadblock with your peer, you've tried talking it through, nothing's really moving forward, you need to escalate it to a level above. In all these cases, it takes courage to have those conversations, courage to speak up, courage to be open and honest, courage to put yourself on the line, and courage to imagine that you can influence the outcome. So pluck up that courage and have that talk. Okay? I'll see you next time.